Welcome back to the Crypto channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin just confirmed a new warning signal in the short term that we need to pay attention to, while the price is also forming a new price pattern in the short term, while Ethereum is still playing out this bearish divergence, and the price of XRP is still only just holding on above this crucial level of support. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. But on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we still have the massive bearish divergence still active on this time frame, which means do not expect a significant amount of bullish momentum on the larger time frame. So obviously we can see short-term bullish moves on smaller time frames, but those are basically short-lasted, short-lived. We don't really have any massive momentum towards the upside, at least right now. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day Bitcoin price chart, we can see in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD that overall we're seeing declining bearish momentum. So we're moving slowly towards a possible bullish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD. But with that being said, once again, we're still not really seeing a significant amount of bullish momentum. For example, what we saw back here around the end of April, entering into early May. Currently, we have nowhere near that sort of momentum in the market. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin price chart, we can see that right now the price is kind of bouncing around between support and resistance. So first of all, we have very important support in this area, sitting in between around 106.7k to 107.6k, and obviously the price has perfectly bounced from within that area a couple of times here at these local lows, and ultimately we come back up towards this level right here based on this previous Fibonacci level, currently acting as a bit of resistance at roughly 113,500. So obviously the price is pretty much perfectly rejecting from roughly 113,500, and if the price breaks out above that level, the next significant level to watch out for is at roughly 117,000. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term on the 4-hour time frame, the price of Bitcoin has technically just confirmed a new short-term bearish divergence, with new higher highs now confirmed in the price in the candle closes and lower highs now confirmed in the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI. And this is the first short-term bearish divergence on the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart that we've seen confirm since around 3 weeks ago. Over 3 weeks ago, around the 13th, 14th of August, around there was the last time we confirmed a bearish divergence on the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart. And what came next last time here was simply a pullback in the price of Bitcoin, which is one of the most common outcomes from a bearish divergence. We usually end up seeing either a bit of a pullback like this, or at best maybe just some choppy sideways price action, but overall showing weakness and lacking bullish momentum. And usually a divergence on the 4-hour time frame plays out over usually just a few days or so before it starts to lose relevance. And so this could possibly play out over the next 1 day, maybe over the next half a week, but that sort of time frame is what I expect based on this on the 4-hour time frame. And obviously these last bullish divergences that we've seen over the last couple of weeks played out in the form of short-term bullish reliefs that once again lasted just a few days before ultimately they started to invalidate. And so overall, expect continued weakness in the shorter term for the price of Bitcoin. But like I said, on the 3-day time frame, we're slowly moving towards a possible bullish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD, but still lacking bullish momentum. So all of this is pointing towards potentially the price remaining in a bit of a sideways price range between strong support at roughly 107,000, give or take, 107 to 108,000, acting as strong support, and of course strong resistance based on these highs right here, sitting at roughly 113,000, give or take. And then, like I said earlier, if we break out above 113,000, 113.5k, in that situation, the next critical level to watch out for, the next short-term price target, would be at around 117,000. And also here on the 6-hour Bitcoin price chart, we have a possible inverse head and shoulders pattern, which is basically already formed, but not currently confirmed. And in order to actually confirm this price pattern, we actually really need to see a breakout very soon, ideally within the next 1 day or so. If we take too long here, maybe take a few days before ultimately moving up towards this level, then essentially we have no more inverse head and shoulders pattern. So in order for this to actually confirm, we need to see a move up above these highs right here, ideally in the next 1 or 2 days max. And in case you're wondering, in case you're new to all of this, an inverse head and shoulders pattern is a bullish price pattern setting up a bullish price target, but only if we confirm the breakout above the neckline acting as resistance, which is sitting at roughly 112.3k. But ideally, we need to see that breakout above roughly 113,000 above these highs right here in order to actually flip more bullish again and set up a bullish price target. And in that situation, that will set up a possible price target here, potential initial price target at just above 117,000. So like I said earlier, if we break out above around 113,000, 113.5k, the next target will be roughly 117,000. But for now, just over the next 1 day, it's actually much more likely we're just going to cool off a little bit as a result of this new bearish divergence on the 4-hour time frame, which is now technically confirmed. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can currently see still a lot of liquidity both below the price and above the price. First of all, we have a lot of liquidity building in between around 113.8k to 114,000, and also a lot of liquidity at roughly around 107,000. And so it's actually possible we could ultimately take out both of those levels of liquidity. Maybe we see a drop towards the downside to take out the downside liquidity and then see a continued bullish move towards the upside liquidity, or maybe just a slight move up to take out the upside liquidity and then the downside liquidity. But either way, it is quite likely we'll ultimately take out both of these levels, because overall, once again, I do expect the price to remain a bit sideways right now, basically range bound in between this strong support that I just mentioned earlier, these lows, and this strong resistance right here. And of course, strong resistance also at around 117,000. And so overall, those are my expectations in the immediate short term for the next 1 day, and the key levels to watch out for. And of course, the situation on the slightly larger timeframes not changed all that much over the last 1 day. But if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I take a lot of my crypto trades over on BTNX, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive bonuses. For example, up to $25,000 in trading bonuses here, simply just by trading crypto using that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out in order to potentially claim some massive free money from the exchange just by trading crypto, which is only available using that first link below this video. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNX as an exchange, there's also Pinex as another exchange out there that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to Pinex below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim some massive bonuses. For example, if you simply just make an account, complete KYC, it takes about 60 seconds to do this, and you get a free $50 bonus onto your Pinex account, free money from the exchange just by making an account and completing KYC, but only if you use that link. And there's also deposit bonuses here. So for example, if you deposit just $100, you get a $100 bonus, or if you deposit up to $10,000, you get a $1,000 bonus, free money from the exchange. But once again, only if you use that link. If you don't use the link below this video, you can't claim any of these major bonuses here. And in case you're wondering, yes, you can access Pinex without KYC as well. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance on the 3-day time frame, and right now in the immediate short term, we're starting to see a little bit more of a bounce in the Bitcoin dominance, which is not really good news for the altcoin market. As now, with that being said, technically the larger price structure is still currently bearish, because remember, we can see short-term bounces from time to time during a larger bearish trend or a larger pullback, for example. So technically speaking, price structure on the 3-day time frame still looking more bearish than it is bullish. But in the immediate short term, for a period of hours or maybe days, while we're seeing this current bounce that we're currently seeing in the Bitcoin dominance, of course, that is not good just in the immediate short term while it is happening. Not good for altcoins is what I mean. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, right now Ethereum is still just bouncing around sideways in this same sideways price range that I've been talking about every day for over a week now on the channel. And so obviously over the last 1 week, that's exactly what we've seen as expected. And I continue to expect this moving forward, at least over the next couple of days. We're likely going to remain in this sideways price range in between this support and this resistance. And in case you're new to the channel, this area of support is sitting in between around 3.9k to 4.1k. This area of resistance is sitting in between around 4.8k to 4.9k. And if we're taking a look at this daily Ethereum price chart, we can see that right now, technically speaking, this bearish divergence is still active and still influencing the price of Ethereum, at least in the somewhat shorter term here, which means expect some weakness and a lack in bullish momentum for the price of ETH. So that does not necessarily mean a major crash, but it can mean, for example, a slight pullback or some choppy sideways price action, ultimately just lacking bullish momentum. And obviously over the last 1 to 2 weeks, that's exactly what we've already started to see play out as predicted. And it's also clear in the immediate short term that the price is developing some support here, and also the RSI developing support along the center of the RSI, along the 50 level, as we can see multiple bounces at close to 50 in the daily Ethereum RSI, alongside the price holding up above this level right here, acting as a bit of short-term support, sitting at just above 4.2k, around 42.50 give or take, acting as some key support just in the shorter term, which means if we start to break below 42.50, especially if we start to see a bit of a breakdown in the RSI, kind of like what we saw just here, for example, we were finding support along the 50 level in the RSI, finding a lot of horizontal support back here during May entering into June, and the moment we broke below that support in the price and in the RSI, we saw a quick drop that only lasted a couple of days, but we did see a further drop towards the downside for a few days or so, which is something we need to consider if the price loses this key level of support here. But remember, we also have a lot of support in between 3.9k to 4.1k, which means if we break below around 42.50, we could likely just come into this range to test this area as support again. And that short-term scenario would actually be increasingly likely going to happen, not guaranteed, but increasingly likely if we continue to see a bit more of a bounce in the Bitcoin dominance, and especially if that bounce in the Bitcoin dominance is happening at the same time as Bitcoin experiencing a slight little cool off as a result of this short-term bearish divergence. Obviously, this happening in the price of Bitcoin, this happening in the Bitcoin dominance, is not really good news just in the shorter term for a lot of altcoins. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the 2-day time frame, we can see that right now Solana is basically still playing out some choppy sideways price action in the short term, exactly as I've been saying over the last few days. So technically the larger trend or the larger price structure is still currently bullish, still forming higher lows and higher highs, but in the immediate short term, we're basically lacking momentum to either direction, looking very neutral, at least for now, and this will likely continue to be the case, especially if we see a bit more of a bounce in the Bitcoin dominance, because that essentially means it's going to be very difficult for a lot of altcoins to experience bullish price action. But considering the price of Solana is also holding above this key area of support here, that's also meaning the price is avoiding bearish price action, ultimately causing a lot of choppy sideways price action. And in case you're new to the channel, this area of support is still sitting in between around 190 to 200, and we have some short-term resistance at roughly 214 to 215, and more resistance at roughly 230. But overall, over the last one day, not a lot has changed for Solana. So without wasting your time, getting straight into the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, right now we're still playing out the massive bearish divergence on the weekly XRP price chart. And so this still means that in the coming days, weeks, if not months, expect a larger slowdown or possibly a larger pullback, lacking bullish momentum and showing a lot of weakness for the price of XRP. And I've been saying that every day since over a month ago, since roughly $3.40. And obviously ever since then, that's already been playing out as I've been warning about, as I've been predicting. And if we're taking a look at this daily XRP price chart, we're also still struggling to get back above this key level on the price chart here, sitting at around 290, but really in between around 285 to 290 is the key short-term area of resistance that I'm watching. And if we actually break out back above $2.90 in that situation, we have this horizontal resistance right here sitting at roughly $3.08. And as for short-term support, we have a lot of support right here based on this low and this low in the candle closes sitting at roughly 275, and below that the next significant area to watch out for is sitting in between around 255 to 262. And if we're taking a look at this daily XRP price chart, obviously just in the shorter term, the price of XRP is still only just holding on above this crucial level of support here, once again at roughly 275 give or take. And in case you're wondering, this descending line of resistance for the descending triangle pattern is also still sitting at roughly $3, slightly dipping below $3 now, considering it is a descending line of resistance obviously. And in case you're wondering, if we break below around 275 with confirmation, so candle closes below that level, especially if we fail to get back above that level, in that situation that would activate this as a bearish price pattern, activating a bearish price target. But before we could reach that bearish price target, once again we would have that area of support right here sitting in between around 255 to 262 as the next immediate target if we first break below 275 with confirmation. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, obviously Chainlink is continuing the shorter term pullback, and we're most likely going to come back down towards a retest of this crucial area on the price chart here sitting in between around $20 to $21. But it's possible we could start to find a bit of support at roughly $21.50, just above $21, starting to act as major support support here based on previous significant price action. And as for resistance, in case we see another short-term bounce here, expect a lot of resistance at starting at roughly $24, but really in between around $24 to $25, and also significant resistance at just underneath $27. And of course, one of the main reasons as to why we're continuing the pullback, lacking bullish momentum, showing a lot of weakness in the shorter term, is due to the fact that Chainlink is still playing out the bearish divergence on the daily Chainlink price chart, as I've been warning about every day for a couple of weeks now on the channel, since basically these highs right up here at $27. I've been warning here on the channel that we have a bearish divergence, which means expect a lack in bullish momentum and most likely a bit of a pullback for the price of Chainlink as a very likely outcome. And obviously over the last 1 to 2 weeks, that's exactly played out as predicted. And considering right now it's still currently active, it means continue to expect this price action moving forward, at least in the coming days here. But if you didn't already know, you can actually profit from bearish price action using things like short positions, for example. So once again, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you could profit from crypto no matter what direction the price is going, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.